Welcome to episode 389 of the AMPM podcast. My guest this week is Sumana Sanjeeva. Sumana came to the United States when she was 22 with her husband, started working in banking, then actually bought a franchise business, and then stumbled into Amazon. When she went to sell her franchise business, she saw a listing for this Amazon company that was making a bunch of money on this business selling site. She didn't really know even what an ASIN was. She decided to go all in, bought it, and within a year, she 5x'd her money and sold that business. It's an amazing story. She's a really smart lady. You're going to really enjoy this episode with Sumana.
Welcome to the AMPM podcast. Welcome to the AMPM podcast, where we explore opportunities in e-commerce.
We dream big and we discover what's working right now.
Plus, this is the podcast where money never sleeps, working around the clock in the AM and the PM.
Are you ready for today's episode?
I said, are you ready? Let's do this. Here's your host, Kevin King. Kevin King.
Look who it is. It's my favorite hall pass buddy, Sumana. How are you doing, Sumana?
Hi, Kevin. I'm doing great. Thank you so much.
Now, we met, I think, BDSS, right? Is that where we first met?
That was the first time we met. And before we start, I want to say it's such an honor and a pleasure just to be here talking to you. It's wonderful. Thank you. And yeah, BDSS Puerto Rico was the first time we ever met.
How did you hear about BDSS? What made you actually decide to come to that?
That's actually a great question. So I just started attending the mastermind groups. Before BDSS, there was only one event that I attended. That was also that was actually by accident. That was the China Magic. And I just ended up, that was the first event I ever attended as an Amazon seller. Before that, I didn't know all of these. So many, masterminds actually were there. And I think I actually ended up Googling it after coming back from China Magic. I'm like, okay, wait, I think there must be more, masterminds and more people that are going to different events. What should be there? And the first thing that came up was BDSS. And it was going to happen like right around, and it was, I think, if you remember, I booked it a day before BDSS started, and I was there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I don't remember that. You booked it you're one of those last-minute people.
Yeah, very last minute. And I don't think they had anything prepared for me, because when I walked over there, they were like, oh, wait, you just booked yesterday, didn't you? I'm like, yeah, I did.
That's awesome. Well, that's awesome. And now, I think you're coming to Hawaii, but you haven't booked your hotel yet. So it's going to be another last minute thing?
It is going to be one of those last minute things. So
well, you don't want to wait too long, because our room block, when you do these events, a lot of people don't realize this. We have to guarantee a certain number of rooms. And in exchange for that, they give us discounts like on the ballroom or something like that. Or we don't have to pay for the ballroom. We have to pay for all the audio visual equipment and all that, but they don't charge us like to rent the room. But if we don't hit that guarantee of number of rooms, we have to pay for all the empty rooms.
Oh, wow.
And so then they let you adjust it about 10%. So that's why when you go to events, people are like, here's our booking link, please book through us. A lot of times there's a discount on that as well. But if we don't hit that, then we're on the hook. How was it when you went to Puerto Rico? Was it what you expected? How was BDSS for you?
That was my first actual event that I attended, where it was like packed with great content and like great speakers and so many great people that I met there. It was very, very, I came out with so much energy. I was like, wow, this is what these events do. And after that event, actually, I've been to a lot of other events, but I still remember everything that was covered. Every person that I met there, it was just an amazing event. And also, of course, I swam in the sand when we did the whole, I think you had great activities planned. That was amazing. That was actually really fun with all the sellers to, compete and like just have fun. It was a lot of good playful events that we had there. And, I thought that kind of really, I think gave me so much energy when I came back. I think I applied or kind of taken so much of the content that was presented there and so many hacks that were presented there. And I applied to my business like right away. I was like, okay, I got to do this, and this. So that was great.
So speaking of fun, I think you've been having a little bit of fun actually doing this whole Amazon game. Your background was what, before this, you were in banking, right?
Yep, that is correct. So I was a branch manager at, I don't know, do you remember Wachovia Bank when it was Wachovia?
Yeah, before Wells Fargo bought it, right?
That's right. Right. Yeah. So Wachovia, and then Wells Fargo took over. I worked for Wells Fargo for a year. So I was a branch manager for a long, long time. Did that. And then had my second daughter. When I had her, I decided to take a break, took a break for some time. After that, I was looking for a job and my husband was like, you should start a business. So I was like, why do you think I should start a business? He's like, I think you're going to be good at doing business. I was like, okay. So I ended up starting a franchise. It was a math and English learning center for kids. It was an after-school program. Started with one location that did well and then ended up opening 2 more locations. Did that for about 8 years. Kind of got burnt out because I had 3 locations. I was driving all over the place. Just a lot of work from morning till night. I would come home at like 9 o'clock in the night. So that was the pre-Amazon world a pre-Amazon career that I had.
So were you actually doing the instructing of the kids or were you just like managing the locations and you had people working for you?
Yeah, I was managing the locations and I had instructors, a lot of teachers that were teaching. So I had over 300 students attending those sessions. So that was a lot of work and, managing the centers, and managing the employees, the teachers, the administrative staff, and just talking to parents and those things. Yeah.
Now I got a question about the banking. So when you're doing the banking, did you start out like as a teller and work your way up, or did you go to college for like finance and just end up in banking, or how did you end up in banking?
Wow. I don't think anybody has asked me that question before. So yes, I actually started as a teller a long time back. And the way I kind of started there, the first day of my training, they were talking, the person who was training, they were talking about, nickels, dimes, and pennies. And I knew what a penny was. I knew what a quarter was, but I did not know what a nickel and dime was. And I was sitting there in the training and she was talking about, 4 nickels makes this and this many nickels make that. And you give out change, this is how you should, give and things like that. And I looked at the person next to me and I asked her, I said, what is this nickel and dime? And, literally the look on her face, it was almost like a horror on her face, was like, oh my God, you don't know what a nickel and dime is? And you're sitting here, at the training, that was how I got started in banking. And then after that, I think within 2.5 years, I was a branch manager. So I started as a teller and became a branch manager in about 2.5 years. And
you figured out what nickels and dimes are and what the difference between a $20 and $100 bill is, I'm assuming. And is that because that you weren't born here, right?
No, I was not born here. I was born in India, raised in India, came here when I was 22 and a half. Let's not forget the half, right? So I was 22 when I came here. But I have lived here longer than I have lived in India. So, yeah.
I just want to explain why you didn't know when you go to what a nickel and a dime was. This is just so people would understand. So after the franchises or the education stuff, did you sell that or did you exit that or just close them down or what'd you do?
I did. I sold them. So kind of that kind of, I think, goes hand in hand with how I got started with Amazon. So I actually went online to list that business for sale. So my daughter was going to go to college, my older one, and I wanted to really take a break. I wanted to sell those 3 franchise locations and just wanted to, stay home, be at the stay-at-home mom for a while for my daughter before she went to college and just be, spending some quality time with her. That was the plan. So when I went online to list those 3 locations for sale, before I could sell that business, when I went to list these businesses for sale, I saw a shiny object, caught my eye on the corner of the screen and said, work from home and I think it was like over $300,000. It was like $347,000. And I was like, wait, how can I work from home and make more money than I was making with the 3 locations of franchise I had? This is some kind of a, hoax, and like somebody is just kind of putting it out there. But I was curious. I wanted to know because I was like, okay, if I could sell these 3 franchise locations, and I can still work from home, so I don't have to be like not doing anything. I can still be making money. So I ended up picking up the phone and calling the broker that had listed that business for sale. And
was it something like Biz Buy Sell or something like that? One of those.
Biz Buy Sell. That's
okay.
That's exactly the site that I was on. And I didn't even know that site existed until my franchisor kind of suggested, because I wanted to sell the franchise locations. And he was like, oh yeah, everybody lists their franchise on Biz Buy Sell. Why don't you go list it on there? I was like, okay. That's really how I got onto that site. And so yeah, that was the.
So before you sold, you saw this other one and you called them and they said, what was it? Was it an Amazon business that someone was selling or what was it?
Right. So when I called the broker, he said, it's an Amazon business. And I was like, what is an Amazon business? And of course, it was listed for 1.1 million. So I'm thinking, for $1.1 million, I'm going to own a small chunk of Amazon. Because I honestly did not, until he really explained to me what it was, I really did not even realize that it was not Amazon that was sending me the products every time I hit buy. It was not Amazon. And that was, for me, that was very confusing. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I don't understand. Isn't it isn't it Amazon that sends me every time I buy something? Don't they have this huge warehouse somewhere that just ships me the product? And he was like, poor guy, he was trying to explain to me how this whole Amazon business worked, and it wasn't making sense to me. And I said, okay, I will do some research and really kind of understand. And then I was like, so what is this product that I'm supposed to be selling? And he said, it's board games. I'm like, okay, what kind of board games? And he was like, backgammon. I was like, backgammon? What the heck is that? I've never played a game of backgammon in my life. So I know what he was talking about with this whole Amazon business and this backgammon board game. So I literally had to go search for everything and understand what they were. So that's kind of how I came to learn about Amazon as a business.
So this was 2019, 2020, something like that?
This was 2020. So end of 2019, beginning of 2020. Actually, I think January 2020 is when all this kind of happened. And
so right before COVID, you got into the board game business where everybody has to stay at home and they're bored. Yeah, no pun intended there.
Yeah, and the funny thing was, that was going to be a reason why I was not going to buy the business, because I was too afraid that COVID, was going to be one of those things where if I don't have products to sell, what am I going to sell? My business is going to tank. So, because just to think about that, I remember the conversation with the broker, and I said, hey, it was February, and the first cases of COVID had hit U.S. in the Washington state, the nursing home, cases. And I was like, oh my God. And China was actually talking about the shutdown and, all of that. China was hit really bad. And I was thinking, I'm not going to have any products to sell. Like, how am I going to keep up with this? And he was like, Sumana, you have to understand, it's board games. And, if people are going to be stuck in the house, what would they rather do? They would be playing board games. And for me, in my head, backgammon was not a big board game. For me, okay, if it was chess or, some other board game that everybody knew, in my mind, that was going to be the big thing. Since I didn't know what backgammon was, right? So that's really how it felt at that moment.
So you bought it for 1.1. Did you use money from the sale of your other business, or did you do financing or SBA, or did you have some savings, or was it owner finance? How did you maneuver that?
So I actually had not even sold my other business. I had just listed and started talking to buyers. But this business was pretty interesting. So I did go for an SBA loan with a 10% down payment. So which was a big deal for us, because we were like, imagine that conversation with my husband, right? So it's like, I don't know what this business is. It's supposed to be an Amazon business. I don't know what that means. It's a backgammon. It's a product, which I've never played a game of backgammon, but I'm ready to invest all of our life savings as a down payment for a $1.1 million with our house as collateral. So that was the conversation. And poor guy, my husband, bless us, he's such a supportive guy, and he's like, okay, go for it, go do what you want to do. And ended up taking an SBA loan of 1.1 million plus 300,000 in inventory.
Oh, wow. So was the only SKU backgammon, or were there other games or other SKUs in there too? Or was backgammon just the main one?
Yeah, backgammon was it. And it was variations of the backgammon game, so different sizes and colors of the game.
So once you bought it, or did you start digging into all right, how does this Amazon, now that you know that Amazon doesn't actually decide what to sell, and they don't have these big warehouses, they have big warehouses, but that everything's not coming shipped by Amazon or decided by Amazon. Once you kind of figure that out, how did you actually okay, now I got to figure out, how does this thing work? How do I ship stuff in? How do I sell these? Was the owner involved and teach you, or did you go and just start digging around YouTube or go take a class, or what did you do?
Yeah, so the first time I really saw a Seller Central screen was the day after closing of the business. So the day after I paid the guy $1.1 million.
Wow.
That was the first time. And I would caution everybody whoever is listening, if they're first time doing this, please don't do that. It worked out for me, thank God. But now I know all of the due diligence that I was supposed to do, which I didn't do. But luckily, this is something that they say, right? Don't try this at home.
Yeah.
Kind of situation.
Yeah, really. Don't try this at home.
Yes, exactly. Disclaimer. So, that was the first time I looked at it. And then once I started kind of looking at the screen, the way I did that was I was clicking on every tab that was out there. And if I didn't know something, I would look at YouTube. And if YouTube did not have an answer, I would call the previous owner. And he was actually a lot of help. He's a great guy. We are still good friends. He was so patient. He actually came and sat in my living room the day after, the deal closed. Of course, he lives right here in South Carolina. I live in North Carolina. So he came. He and his wife came, sat down here. in the living room, and kind of in one day, whatever he could cover, he kind of like covered. But I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa! I had just gotten through.
You're like, what's an asin? What's a asin? What's a asin? How do you say it?
Exactly. Yeah. Oh my God, that was so funny because he was talking about ACOS and tacos, and when initially when he was talking about tacos, I thought he was talking about food, maybe having lunch or something, and I was like, what are we talking about here? So it was very. Today, when I think about it, I kind of laugh about it, and at the same time, I'm like, what was I thinking? So, but just kind of that was. They did come and sit here, and they went through a lot of things. And for me, in my mind, I had just gone through a whole stack of closing documents from the bank, right? So I had all of that going on. And then this one here, I said, at the end of the day, I just said, okay, you know what? Thank you so much for showing me all this. I don't think I got a lot of things. It just went over my head. So after he left, of course, we had some consulting time put in the APA when we were closing. So I had about 30 hours to learn from the previous owner. So I think I might have utilized every minute of it, and maybe more. He was gracious enough to maybe spend more time with me.
So after you started running it, did you end up adding more products to it, or just stick with the same backgammon and variations?
So I didn't have any time. I didn't have any time to add anything else or do anything else, because as soon as I took over, the inventory that I got was supposed to last until October of that year. And I was told that I just needed to order one more container for that year to kind of for the holiday season, and then I'll be all good. But then, I think about a week and a half into having owned that business, COVID started to really take effect, and people were staying at home. And I was selling out of products so fast that I was like, okay, by the time it's June or July, I would be out of stock at that rate. So my first thought process was like, I need to get more inventory. How do I get more inventory? So I had a video call with the supplier for the first time. And, and I was like, what's going on there? Hello, how are you? I'm Sumana, by the way. I'm the new owner, but I need more products. How do we do this? And she was like, well, we don't know. We are shutting down our factory. All of our workers have gone to their villages. We have no idea when we are going to come back. And I'm like, oh my God, this is it. I'm thinking, this is it. Everything is over. Like, I can't make loan payments. I can't do this. This is going to be very bad for the business. I'm going to be losing everything. That was my, thought process at that moment. But then I asked, like, what do we do to get more products? And she's like, you can go ahead and place an order now. And whenever we come back, it's going to be first come, first serve. And we'll start production of the first order, and then we'll just keep going. I was like, okay, thank you. I will send you an email. And that night I was like, okay, what do I do? Like, how do I do this? Because first of all, money, right? So I was just starting to make the money. But then in the back of my mind, wait, I had a 30-40 payment term with the supplier. I'm like, all I had to do was pay the 30% when they start the order. So next day morning, I sent her an email with an Excel spreadsheet of 8 containers worth of orders.
Wow.
So yeah, typically the business
not one like you thought you might need but 8 containers. Holy cow!
8 containers. So she was very confused too, because typically this business was doing about 3 at most, max 4 containers in a whole year. And she was like, wait, this is an order for 8 containers. Is this okay? Are you okay? Like, she was like, do you know how to run this business? She was like, I know you're very new, but you just gave me 8 containers worth of, because each container held about 20 to 22,000 units.
Wow.
Of the board game. So she was very, very confused as to like why I would send her an 8 containers worth order. And I just told her, I said, when you come back, get started and keep sending me as soon as you make, each container, just keep shipping. And she was like, okay, if this is what you want to do. And like I said, she really thought I was crazy. But luckily that was a saving grace, because when they came back at the end of May, they started production on my containers. So another good thing that happened with this 8 containers worth of orders is that everybody else who placed an order after me had to wait until my 8 containers were done. So all of my competitors had to wait until my 8 containers were shipped out, which was almost to the September, October of that year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So because they could only make 1 container per month. That's their capacity was about making.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they were kind of stuck making my orders. And, all the other competitors had to wait. And when everybody else was out of stock for holiday season, and I think by the time it was September, a lot of people were out of stock. And I had stock all the way until the following year, March, to go during that time.
Did you ever run out of stock at all while you were waiting for these 8 containers? You were
Nope.
able to actually, did you have to raise your price or change something, or to keep it in stock, or what did you do?
Yeah, so I did raise the prices, a little bit, because at the end of the day, it was a supply and demand, and since everybody was out of stock and they were raising the prices, because they were going out of stock, and I kept raising the prices. So we actually had raised the price to double of what I had bought it. Like when I acquired the business, what it was being sold, I had doubled the price on the products, and we were still selling out. We were still selling out like crazy. And I was like, oh my God, I couldn't, the only, I think the issue I had during that time was to get it fast enough into FBA. That, because there was such a backlog and things going on at the warehouses. That was the only situation where I think there might have been a few days here and there where we were kind of close to getting out of stock. Sometimes I think we were out of stock for a couple of days, and things like that, just to kind of get them into the warehouses, because we had the stock in the States, we had the stock, but we couldn't get it fast enough into the FBA.
How did you had to pay 30%, you had good terms, so that helped, the 30% down, 30% on shipment, and 40%, I'm assuming, after it arrived or something like that?
When it arrived at the port.
So to order 8 containers, you had to cash flow that. I mean, they're not working. This is March or February or March, and they're not coming back until May. So did you have to put in the payment for, that's 180,000 units? And I don't know what these were costing you. I'm assuming, what, $5 a piece, or $3, $4, $5?
So here's the thing. So 30% when they started production on a container.
Okay, so not until May. You didn't have to pay that until May. Okay.
Exactly. So that was also my idea, was that first thing is I don't have to pay anything until May. Even in May, I have to pay 30% of the first container they're going to start working on.
Ah, okay. All right. Now,
Yes.
did you negotiate that, or that's just what?
That was just a given. That was just a given that whenever they started production on one container, I would pay them 30%.
Okay.
So, they didn't ask otherwise, and I did not expect otherwise. So that was my calculation too. When I was giving them that 8 containers worth of orders, that was my calculation, is that I have to pay 30% then, 30% when they ship. But I knew there was going to be some overlap there, because when they ship this, and I have to pay 30% of that, then I have to pay 30% of the first and the next container. So I knew there was going to be a couple, some.
Oh, that's smart. So by placing a big order, you locked out your competitors, and you were able to cash flow it because you had current inventory that was generating sales. So you're able to plow that money back in, not really take a whole lot out, and just build this thing up to crazy numbers.
Right.
And then you did a magic thing. You bought something for 1.1 plus inventory, and then you sold it for a crazy amount of money. Like what, a year and a half later?
Yep. So before we go into that part of it, the other thing that I wanted to kind of mention with this whole 8 containers situation was I also knew that I could slow down the production. If sales slowed down, let's say COVID went away in 3 months or 6 months, I could also slow down the production and say, hey, you know what? I know you are going to send me back to back all 8 containers. Go ahead and slow down a little bit and send me another container 2 months later. So they would have actually kind of said, oh, okay. They would have actually taken a breather then, I think, made other, products for other, competitors and stuff, but that would have been fine by then. But that's my idea, was to just kind of go ahead and lock them in for the 8 containers. And the other thing also I wanted to mention was when I calculated it, and this was something that everybody kind of, when I talked to, they said, why 8 containers? Why? What if you had, let's say, 3 containers sitting in the warehouse and you didn't sell it fast enough? I kind of mentioned to them that when I calculated it, to store a unit of that game in warehouse, it was costing me 12 cents per month because it was small, right? It was not very big. But the same product, if I did not have to sell, I was losing $20 in profits. So that was kind of, the calculation there that I felt like a lot of times we kind of, when we're looking at inventory, like, oh my God, I don't want to have too much inventory in my warehouse. But it's just one of those things where if you have inventory, you're only paying about 12 to 20 cents per unit to store them. But if you don't have, you're losing $10 to $30 in profits.
Yeah.
That's kind of one of those things. Going into December of that year, since we had done so much sales, and so when I acquired this brand, it was making $347,000 in SDA, and by December we had already done a $1.5 million in SDA.
And were you taking any of that out for yourself, or are you plowing it back in and reinvesting?
I put it all back in because I was like, you know what, this is growing, let it keep growing. I'll keep putting everything back in there. So we had a good, healthy inventory. By the time it was December, we had good inventory. We had great sales. It was doing about $1 million in revenues. By December, it had done like $3.5 million in revenue within that period that I had. And so I started getting emails from aggregators who wanted to acquire the brand, because this was the top brand. It still is the top brand for backend. The review mode was crazy. The listing was great and the sales were great. So I started getting emails from aggregators in December, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. People want to buy this. So that was actually, I didn't even have time to like sit and think about what's next for the business. But then when I started getting those emails, I actually picked up the phone and called the previous owner. And, since I said, he's still a good friend, I said, what do you think? Do you think I should sell this business? And he was like, ooh, that's a good idea. I think you should explore it. And he was so great about that. He was like, you know what, Sumana, you should explore it. You should really kind of look into it. So I started like communicating with the aggregators myself, but then it felt a little kind of like too intense because they were asking me questions. Again, remember, I had just had this business for like 10 months.
Yeah.
I was still
figuring it out.
Yeah, and I was still learning the jargons and like, the whole ACOS and tacos and stuff. I was just getting better at. By the time I got comfortable with ACOS and tacos and, acronyms like that, they rolled out with ROAS. I'm like, what the heck is this ROAS? Like, I can learn everything about this ROAS. So, I was still in that state. And when I started talking to aggregators, I felt a little uncomfortable because the questions they were asking me, I didn't know the right answers for those. So I decided to kind of reach out to some brokers. So the first broker I reached out to was the one that actually sold me the brand, right? Mm-hmm. So he was part of that. So I thought, okay, he knows the brand, he knows the business, he knows that, where it was, where it is today. Unfortunately, when I talked to him, he didn't really give me that sense of that he believed in everything that I have done is what has scaled this business. In his mind, it's like, wait, why would somebody buy this business from you? Like you just bought it for 1.1, and why would somebody want to buy it from you? But he's like, okay, but we can give it a try. We can list it for 3.3 million. And I said, why 3.3 million? Like, what's the, because if we look at 3x multiple, it should be at least 4.5 because it's making 1.5 million in SDA. But in his mind, because I bought it for 1.1, he took 3x from that and he said, let's list it for 3.3. For me, it did not, kind of sit right that he didn't trust or he didn't believe in everything that I had done, because I had also done a lot of PPC campaign adjustments and budget adjustments and so many things that scaled this business, not just, increasing the price or whatever. So I felt a little kind of like, okay, you don't believe in this, so let me just talk to a couple more people. So I ended up talking to another broker from Twilight, and another broker from Website Closers. And one of them was like, oh yeah, let's list it for $7 million. So I was like, okay, that's too high. And then, and then we had Twilight where they're like, okay, let's list it for 5.5. Let's see what kind of offers we get, and things like that. I was like, okay, I felt very comfortable talking to him. And, I said, okay, let's do this. And we ended up listing it in January.
So you hadn't even owned it a year yet, and you put it up for sale for 5.5 million. That you bought it for 1.1 plus inventory. So 5.5 plus inventory, right?
Correct.
Plus 3 containers or however much worth of stuff you had sitting there at 12 cents a unit.
Yep, exactly. So that's exactly correct. And so we ended up listing it for sale. Within the first week, we had multiple interests. And the first 2 weeks, I took 14 calls, 14 Zoom calls with buyers who were seriously interested. And out of that 14, we got several offers.
These are all aggregators or a mix of aggregators and other type of investors?
So people I spoke to was a mix of aggregators and individual buyers. But most aggressive were the aggregators, obviously, at that time.
Were any of them raising the offer?
Yeah. We had a good bit of bidding war happening also. So we got several offers that were more than the asking price. But that was a different process. So once we had these offers, we kind of sat down and looked at who has the money on hand, who is giving us a good, earnouts and everything else, in addition to the asking price. And it just came down to who had the money on hand and who was going to close faster. So that's really what it came down to, because I was like, okay, I don't want to drag this for too long. And because, again, that was something I was not very comfortable with. So from the beginning, I was not comfortable with the whole, because I had only bought it. I had not sold the business. So it was something that I just felt. I also listened to the broker, and kind of made sure, because he knew what he was doing. He had been selling businesses all the time. So I was like, let's listen to him. And we actually had an offer for 6.5 million. And, but they were still in the process of raising money. And that was something that, even broker and I, we both agreed that, okay, it's not there. It's one bird in hand is better than, two out there kind of thing. So, that was the scenario. And then we luckily, actually the aggregators that, I sold to, they were very, very nice people. One of them actually owned a backgammon set, and he was so excited. He was like, "Oh my God, see this! I have it! I have this set. I've been using it for so long, and we love this. We really want it, and we can do so much with it." And that was kind of one of those things where I felt very comfortable too, because at the end of the day, we had to continue talking.
How much did you end up selling it for on the bidding war?
5.5.
Oh, you ended at the 5.5, then how much of that was cash up front to your bank account? How much of that what percentage was earnout?
So earnout, so I also rolled in equity. I kept 7.5% in that business because I wanted to I wanted to see where this was going to go, what was going to happen. So after rolling in, I think cash in the account was about 4.9 something. Again, it's been a couple of years, so numbers wise, but earnouts was not set number; it was percentage of the SD growth in the following 2 years, and that was kind of the.
So as a banker. You used to log into bank accounts and see people with $307 and they're taking out $306. So what was it like the day, after you signed the deal and okay, the deal is just closed? Were you still using Wells Fargo as your? When you logged into that Wells Fargo account, were you there with your husband and your daughters, and you're like, look at this screen, and it shows 4.9 million. What was that like?
That really, I knew.
You're like, oh my God, there's too much money in that account. Get it out. I know someone's going to have access.
That is exactly what happened. We came into my office. I told my husband, I'm like, let's go log into the bank account. I know money will be there. Let's go see this whole thing, right? My daughter was not here. My older one was at college. My younger one was in school. So we came to the computer, logged in, looked at the account, we looked at each other, looked at the account, we looked at each other. I think we did that a few times. And then we were like, wait, let's make sure, there are the correct zeros, we counted the number of zeros there. It was so kind of unimaginable. That's something that we could not imagine in our lifetime to have that, right? Because and this is something a few people that know me know. Between me and my husband, when we came to this country, we came with $70 in our pocket. He came with $40 in his pocket. I came with $30 in our pocket. With a loan back home, or back in India, back in India for our flight tickets. We had to take a loan, which we had to pay back. We hadn't paid back. That's how much we came here with. For us to see that kind of numbers on the screen, we were just like, and then of course, 2 minutes later, we were like, okay, this is too much money in one place. What do we do with it?
You're like, how many nickels and how many dimes is that?
I know, right? Exactly. Exactly. So we're like, okay, let's pay off the mortgage. Let's pay this. Let's do this. Let's do that. And we made a list of things. I think within 2 days, they were all dispersed into different places, except for some, a good bit of money here, because we didn't know what other fees and everything was going to go, taxes, right?
You're calling up your daughter's college. I want to prepay all 4 years now.
Exactly.
Just send me the bill. I'll pay it all now.
Exactly. So
I want it out of the account.
Yeah, that was a very interesting couple of days. I think honestly, it's just those 2 days, the first 2 days, we were still kind of not believing it. It was not even thing that happened. We're like, okay, I think I must have logged in every 1 hour to check. I think the money was still there.
You're waking up at 4 a.m., going on your phone in bed. It's still there.
Exactly.
What did you do to celebrate?
So we actually,
Did you take a trip, or did you go to a nice dinner, or did you do anything?
Of course, yes, we did. We did go to a nice dinner. We actually had our family. My sister-in-law was here, and my brother-in-law was here. So we all went out for dinner. But and I also, my husband's birthday was coming up, and our wedding anniversary. So I bought him a nice car. So that was one of those things.
So you exited, but now you're doing it all again, right? Then you turned around like, okay, that was easy. What's that button you hit at Staples? That was easy. That little red button. Yeah, let me do this again. So then you ended up buying some more businesses, and you turned around and you've already sold some of them, right?
So let me tell you this. I really wanted to take a break. I really did. Because the first time I wanted to take a break when I sold the franchise, that didn't happen because I ended up buying this business even before I sold the franchise. And then again, when I sold this business, I was like, okay, this is it. I'm not going to take a break. I'm going to take a break. I'm not going to buy anything else. I'm just going to relax for the next at least 6 months to a year. Nope, that did not happen. 2 months into it, I found actually the broker that sold my business. He was like, "Sumana, I have this great plot for you if you want to buy." I was like, "Okay, let's take a look at it," and I really liked it. Went to a bidding war for that, but then backed off and then gave a lower offer, and ended up getting that brand. And I still have so I've acquired 3 brands since then. I still have the 3 brands. 2023 was I wouldn't say a tough year, but a very different kind of year. 2023 was more of a personal growth year for me. And I had to really kind of take some time to focus on that. There was a lot of confusion in my personal life. So that's kind of took away from scaling these brands. 2022, I did a good job. 2023, I did not do a great job. But now, I'm actually getting ready to can possibly list one of the brands that I've done okay with in maybe the next few months and exit out of that.
And then you're coming to BDSS in May to actually learn a couple of little tricks and a couple of little things that's going to help you even get more money out of it, right?
Absolutely, 100%. I'm excited. I'm excited for Kauai. It's a great place too. It's too funny because I ended up going to Kauai with my family in December.
Really?
I did not even pay attention to where BDSS was going to be. I knew it was going to be in Hawaii, but I didn't realize it was going to be in Kauai. So now I know exactly what all is there, where to go in Kauai, what to do. Of course, we'll have every minute of it planned for us. So
you're going to have an advantage on the race because you're going to be like, oh, I know where that waterfall is. I know
right?
where this
Exactly.
is. So you want to be on, if you're listening to this and you're going to Hawaii, you want to be on Sumana's team.
I know, right? Let's do that. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Sumana,
excited.
we could keep talking as we did on that couch for hours. We could probably keep talking here for hours, but I have to have you back on because there's more stories that we got to tell. But we've been going for an hour here already. Can you believe it? It doesn't even feel like it. So I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. It's very inspirational and just shows what you can do in this business. It's not always about the latest hacks or the latest whatever. It's having the right product and having the ability to think outside the box like you did with let me order 8 containers, not realizing maybe at the time exactly how that was going to work out, but it worked out to your advantage by boxing out the competitors, and you made some really smart moves along the way. So you can't say this was anybody that says, oh, she just lucked out at the start of COVID. That definitely helped. That there's no doubt that helped. But you made some smart decisions along the way as you figured out your way. And I think that's an important lesson that a lot of people should take from this.
Well, thank you so much, Kevin. I really, really appreciate you having me on this podcast. And one day you should let me interview you. I know you have a lot of great, great stories that I learned from you. So I think the audience will also appreciate hearing from you.
Yeah, we'll have to do that. That's a good idea. That could be a good podcast. Let the guest interview Kevin.
Perfect. Sounds good.
If people want to know more or learn about you or follow you, are you on LinkedIn or anything, or you just want to like stay to yourself, or what do you want to? Anything you want to share?
Sure. I'm on LinkedIn, Sumana Sanjeeva. And then Facebook. I have actually talked to several people who are just starting out, or they're already into business but struggling somewhere. I kind of look at their brand and just kind of, give them a couple of, because I still feel like I'm an outsider looking in. I still don't think that I know everything Amazon. So that kind of helps because I always stay at the basic level. So, I kind of look at some of the brands. I'm like, oh, we can do this or we can do that. I'm like, oh yeah, that's kind of something that I love to do. So if somebody wants to reach out to me, I'm always here. You can look up Sumana Sanjeeva, Sumana Sanjeeva.
Awesome. Thanks again, Sumana. It's been great.
Thank you so much, Kevin. You have a wonderful day.
Sumana and I could have kept talking for hours, just like we did when we were hanging out outside a convention. She's a lot of fun, really smart lady, really successful in what she's doing, and that's just an amazing story that I just had to share with everybody. So hopefully that gave you some inspiration, and it's going to give you some motivation that this business can be awesome, as she is total proof of. We'll be back again next week with another incredible episode of the AMPM podcast. Don't forget the $1 Billion Seller Summit is coming up in Hawaii in just a little over a month or so, May 18th to 23rd. BillionDollarSellerSummit.com is the link if you want to get all of the information. And before I go, I've got to leave you with some words of wisdom. Master your past to master your future. Master your past to master your future. See you again next week.